Throughout this presentation, if I'm referring to EPS or Snavely Forest Products, Weeks Forest Products, Logan Lumber, MacArthur Distribution, whenever I say MacArthur, I'm referring to all of those operations. MacArthur's ESOP is where all of our efforts come together. So, as far as a basic introduction, my name is Lee Bushmaker. I'm part of the St. Paul team, part of the corporate office, and I see us as support staff. We do stuff like retirement benefits, payroll systems, medical benefits, and we do things to help support the people in the field out there turning our inventory into cash. That cash piles up in a bank account, and that's how we get valued each year, is what would somebody in a reasonable state of mind, given options on where they want to invest their money, what's a good fair price that they would pay to own our bank account, our cash flow going forward into the future. So that's what happens each year, and that's why I'm here in June. Because on the front end of July, you're going to be getting stock certificates that are pretty special this year. But before I get into that, I'm going to go into a little background. So, up on this first slide, there's a quote that I really appreciate, and I've grown to appreciate more as I get older, is that a company cannot rise above its people. It's the people that make up an organization. We've purchased companies through acquisitions that we didn't get the people right, and so the business wasn't of the quality that was worth investing in, let's say. And then we've made other investments, especially recently, and these were big bets, investments in places like Weeks Forest Products and Logan Lumber, as well as then in 2018 the acquisition of Snavely Forest Products, and those were game changers because we bought great companies, we invested in great companies at a fair price, because you got to get the price right, with proven people already in place. And so the idea of a company cannot rise above its people is true. So we've learned how to do good acquisitions, and it involves investing in good teams. So here, this next slide it goes over our structure. This is what you own as employee owners. This is what drives our stock value. All of our efforts across the entire country matter. We do different things. Like, I'm here in Grettinger, EPS Buildings. An interesting thing about what you guys do is it takes stuff from our lumber operations and it uses product from our insulation operations, and it puts those things together and actually makes a building. So MacArthur Distribution there in the middle, that's branches across the country. And I'll bring up a map later on in the presentation, and that, we sell roofing and insulation products, and we'll sell it to the contractors that are going to go put it on the building or the house. The MacArthur company started originally in pipe insulation. The company is very old. We started doing that in 1913, and here we are now. That last pillar, it's the biggest contributor to our stock value that we're going to go over on the next slide. And that was just some beautiful acquisitions that we've done since starting in 2014. And, post-COVID, buying a lumber company before the COVID thing went was a very good idea. The lumber industry weathered the chaotic period extremely well, and it's going to come out of it extremely well too. So those were wise acquisitions as far as investments in people and in leadership and in a type of business, but it turns out that was a great bet for a long-term durable business investment as well that can weather storms extremely well. So that's what you own when I'm talking about all of our efforts across the country. These are the major pillars that make up the cash flow that drives our stock price. And that's what we will go to next. The big news of today, and this is an exceptional year. Our stock value went from $396 a share to $596.50 a share. And that's a 50% increase. So if you had a $200,000 ESOP balance previously, just the value appreciation alone turns that $200,000 balance into a $300,000 balance. Now that's the stock price increase. And if you're an employee who's been here, more than 10 years, you're really interested in that stock price increase. It'll set you back on your heels, and that's where you show it to your spouse, show it to your parents, because that's a true reflection of each of your efforts as an individual, where that effort piles up, and then it's also a reflection of your ownership in the company that we're all a part of. The only way to be a shareholder in a stock like this is to be an active employee at our company. For most of us, you're going to have access to an investment like this once in your entire life. And why I say that is that up there where it says the 26% annual compound growth rate, that means you're taking something and multiplying it by 1.26, 1.26, 1.26. You do that over a 10-year period, you get exponential growth, and it turns into a chart that looks like this. You don't have to be a financial analyst to realize that this is an outstanding performance chart. And that's what this stock chart is. It's a reflection of our efforts across the country, how well we're performing as a company, in the sense of how much would a reasonable person pay to own our bank account going forward. So it's a stock bonus. It's like it's ownership experience. When you get these certificates on the front end of July, look at them, because the 10-year employees, they'll be super happy. 10-year plus employees, they'll be super happy about the stock price appreciation. And we should all be happy with that because it's a great performance. But the newer employees, that fresh stuff coming in, it's still of substantial value. So when you think about all the opportunities that you have for where you want to work, always remember these stock allocations. They'll vary from year to year, but this one it's a heavy one, and people will notice it, and it makes a difference between working in our ESOP for our company versus working for the competition. So we have a lot of choices, especially in today's world, and that's the other thing too, is that we're having a really hard time finding people. So I'm going to get into that recruiting speech, but two big takeaways here: 50% stock price increase. Look at your certificate, you'll be shocked. And then also look at that fresh amount of stock coming in as far as those annual contributions. It's an impressive one this year. It's noteworthy. And regardless, when you open that envelope, you'll feel something hopefully good about where you're contributing your time and your effort and your career. This is an old slide, but it drifts into why an ESOP has the potential to do what ours is doing. So right down there at the bottom right, you got employee ownership. So right in that little bubble there, you get the incentives aligned where when you look at our inventory out in the yard, you see a bundle of lumber, a bundle of insulation. Think about that as our cash. We take our cash out of the bank account, we buy that material, hopefully do something to it or resell that material at more than we paid for it. That creates a positive cash flow coming in. That positive cash flow adjusts that performance chart on our stock value. More cash we pile up, the more valuable our ESOP will be. So when we take the cash out of the bank account, that determines our value, and we put it into lumber or equipment. Treat that equipment like you own it, because you kind of do. So if you align that incentive structure where you get people across the country at our company operating like an owner and using our equipment, taking care of our inventory, interacting with customers in a way like they own the whole business, that's going to make us extremely hard to compete against. And it's also going to translate into these other things here where it'll lead to greater productivity because you care, because we're all pushing in a direction that is going to enrich us all as a group. So greater productivity, that'll translate into better service for our customers, because this is a competition. If we don't take care of our customers, they're going to go elsewhere. Customer satisfaction goes up, That satisfaction leads to increased loyalty. That customer loyalty translates into increased profits, increased business, which translates into a higher cash flow for us if we're doing it right. And that shows up in the stock price. What our company culture, I always try to think about, like, what are some basic principles that we could all agree upon. So far what I've distilled it down to that seems to resonate with teams across the country is we want to find honest people. We want them to be competent. They got to know what they're doing so they can take care of the customers first and foremost, and then work well as part of a team. And that is that third one. Like, you have to be able to work as part of a team. So why I bring up this map of the US, this shows all of our locations across the country. If you know people that want to be a part of that stock chart, want to be a part of those allocations that I just went over, find a way to get their information to a hiring manager or contact me directly. Everybody who works for our company experiences the stock plan in the same way. This is the final slide, and this is the stock certificate that everybody will be receiving in July. The big thing is to just open that piece of mail and look at it and feel whatever you're going to feel. But don't disregard it. You know, save it. It's a very special year, and it's a reflection of what you and what us as a company have done as a group. So open that piece of mail, and, you know, in closing, when I come out here, I'll ask my boss, you know, Mark Larson, who's our CFO, I'll ask him if there's any messages that he'd want me to convey. And one thing that he said this year that stuck out was, you know, let's keep building upon what we've already done. You know, let's not rest on our laurels, and try to, you know, keep that stock chart moving in that same direction, because it's impressive as far as what we've done at a company given very difficult operating circumstances. So let's be proud of what we've done and then build upon that success. Is that message. And another thing that I always typically do is I'll ask our CEO, Barrett Moen, what he'd want me to share when I come to places like EPS in Iowa. You know, he'll say the same thing every year. He'll say, Lee, be sure to show them proper respect and treat them as they would deserve to be treated, as well as be sure to tell them thank you. So, you know, I have the great privilege of being here, and my job, just like I tell my 9-year-old little girl, is I go around and I tell people thank you and good job. Keep up the great work, because it's impressive. And it's the coolest job I could ever have. So, you know, thank you. It's much appreciated. It's noticed. And those certificates are a way of showing that. So thank you for your time today. And if you ever want to talk about our company or the ESOP, I am literally there waiting for the phone to ring. So please lean on your HR staff too, across the country. I'm hoping to share as much knowledge as I can about my understanding of the ESOP with everyone. And we'll also be working on other programs to help bring our company closer together and hopefully do things that make us even more of a force to compete with in the future. So, thank you.